Viz Media just dropped a ton of extremely exciting manga license announcements. We need to talk about this, so let's get on into it. So as always, every 4 months, Viz Media does a big licensing event where they talk about a bunch of new manga that they're going to be putting out in the next 9 or so months. So this time they showed us a bunch of really cool things. Cool is honestly an understatement that they've got planned for the spring of 2025. Now, there's a lot of stuff here that I was not expecting in a million years to see from Viz, and honestly, last license announcement round was a really great one. This one, for me, personally, might be even better, and I know that this is going to include a lot of announcements that a lot of people have been waiting for. Anyway, let's get on into it. As always, I'm going to be going through these in the order that they were announced through Viz Media's Twitter and Instagram and stuff. I'm going to be reading the tweets as they put them out from my computer here. And then on the screen, you'll get the image of the cover as well as some additional information about each of these books. And I'll share a little bit of personal feelings or whatever about each of them as I go through. First up, they started with Minecraft the manga. An interesting way to start this. We were all kind of like, oh, okay. But it makes sense why they would do this now. Join Nico on his chance to escape the blocky confines of his home and prove how strong he's become when zombies attack. Minecraft the manga by Kazuyoshi Seto. Now, the reason I said this makes sense right now is kind of twofold. Minecraft has always been popular, and it is as popular as ever, but we do have the movie coming around the corner, so it does make sense that they want to capitalize off of that. Secondarily, though, one of their big, long-running young reader titles, Yokai Watch, is wrapping up this month with volume 23, and so just from a publication standpoint, they want to have something to take place of that, and this has been running since 2020, so it's got 9 volumes, I believe, right now. So it is a good one to put out in place of a longer running young reader series like Yokai Watch. And again, Minecraft is extremely popular, so it is a good idea for them to license something like this that they know is going to get them a lot of attention. I'm talking from like a marketing standpoint and stuff, that this was a good move from them. Personally, I've never been into Minecraft, nothing against it, I never got into it, but I know it is super popular. Their second announcement, though, is going to be great for a lot of people, making a lot of people very happy, and that is, of course, RuriDragon. Ruri Aoki awakens one morning to find a pair of horns growing from her head. It's hard enough to trying to be a normal high school girl, and now she's a half dragon? Now, this one is interesting if you're unaware of the publication history. It started back in 2022, but after just about 2 months, it went on to an indefinite hiatus due to the creator's health. And it just came back like a couple months ago and has resumed regular publication in Weekly Shonen Jump. It only has 1 volume of material out there, but because this announcement is coming now, it leads me to believe one of 2 things from Viz. Either one, they've been sitting on this physical license and were waiting to make the announcement until after it came off of hiatus, or number 2, they were waiting until it came off of hiatus to immediately jump on getting the physical license and then now announced it really quickly. I had no doubt that this would ever be getting a physical release in English, but I'm just surprised that they didn't wait for like a couple more volumes of material. But that's kind of common with a lot of the releases or a lot of the announcements this time, including this next one, Kaiju number 8 B-Sides, which was also licensed with just a single volume out. It's crazy because the industry, and especially Viz Media, usually they wait a little while. They usually wait for at least a few volumes to be out before announcing their license, but we've seen kind of a shift where a lot of these publishers are picking things up after they only have a single volume released in Japan, just following trends and stuff a lot more closely so they can make sure that they're licensing the things that are going to be standouts and before they even become standouts, basically. Anyway, Kaiju number 8's a little bit different, though, because it is a spin-off of an existing title, but what this tells me is that the main series is selling really well for Viz, because otherwise they would have waited a little while to pick up the spin-off. But if they're doing this immediately, like this series began this year, it began in 2024, and they're already licensing it for physical release. The anime, I'm gonna say, has to be doing really well as well. It started somewhat recently, so probably early numbers are really good for that, so they felt pretty confident about getting this spin-off. I'm a big fan of Kaiju number 8 and have been since it started publication. Just, I'm a big fan of Kaiju media in general, so this is one that I'm very excited about. But this next one is one of the biggest licenses, if not the biggest license announcement this round. I was extremely excited when they unveiled that they got the license for The Climber. A dangerous bid for solitude introduces Mori to the rush of solo climbing, addicting him to heights. Based on the novel by Jiro Nida, The Climber, with story by Yoshio Nabeta and Hiroshi Takano, and art by Shin-ichi Sakamoto. Sakamoto does take over as the writer for this series as well after a few volumes, but he starts off as just the artist. I'm surprised that they got this license because I was confident that Dark Horse was going to get it. I had conversations with editorial over at Dark Horse about this book, and they had let me know, and I put a video out last year, that they were interested in the license, but they were doing Innocent and Innocent Rouge first, and they were going to see how those did before grabbing this one. And I feel like VIZ just came in and sniped it, and they're like, if you're going to wait, we're just going to do it. But it doesn't surprise me that it was licensed, it just surprised me that it was VIZ and not my expectation that was Dark Horse. Either way, happy to have it, and it makes sense for VIZ because they did do Dracula Midnight Children, which had volume 2 come out somewhat recently, which is Sakamoto's current series, and I would assume that that one's doing pretty well for them, and maybe they can see that Innocent's been doing pretty well for Dark Horse. Of course, they don't know the exact numbers, but they probably know it's doing decent. But knowing that sales for those things and interest in that stuff has been good enough that they can go ahead and license this with confidence. But of course, this has been one of the most requested licenses for a while, so most people should not be surprised that it did get picked up. Just, I know a lot of people are more surprised that it took as long as it did for this to get picked up. This is the series where Sakamoto kind of escalated in the industry into the figure that he is now, and so if you've not read anything by Shinichi Sakamoto, I think this is definitely a good place to start. And I'm also going to say I'm hoping that this succeeds well enough that VIZ, Dark Horse, or other publishers might pick up his earlier works, because he has like 4 series, I think, that were put out before he did The Climber, and it would be great to have those in English as well. Moving on from this one, next up is Dr. Mashirito's Ultimate Manga Techniques from Kazuhiko Torishima and Takanaka Shimotsuki. Learn how to make manga from past editor-in-chief of Weekly Shonen Jump, Kazuhiko Torishima. Torishima, the characters reversed, are Mashirito. So that's the character that that Toriyama would put into series. Was Dr. Mashirito was based on the editor-in-chief, Torishima, who collaborated with masters of the craft. So this feels like it is released as kind of an in memoriam for the late Toriyama, who passed just recently. I do expect that we'll see more releases of Toriyama works, maybe things that we've never seen in English, or re-releases of things that we have. But this was a pretty recent release in Japan, and I think that this is definitely put out now as a way to kind of memorialize Toriyama a bit. If you are a fan of Toriyama in any way, I think this will be an interesting one to pick up, but also if you're a fan especially of his earlier stuff, his more gag-centric works like Dr. Slump or early Dragon Ball, this is definitely going to be one for you. Next up is probably the most obvious announcement this time, Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. The ninja adventures continue in this second series featuring Naruto's son Boruto. When Code attacks Konoha, Boruto returns to show how powerful he's become. So the series, the first series ended, they did the time skip and then brought it back as a second title instead of just continuing along like the original Naruto did. So this is post-time skip, this is basically Boruto Shippuden. This was obvious because volume 20, the last volume of Boruto, is about to come out in English, so it was obvious that they would be licensing this pretty soon. So fans of Boruto, obviously you're going to want to be picking this one up when it comes out in the spring. If you're not a fan, then obviously you're going to be skipping out on it. But next up is the first of the shoujo announcements for this round. and one that I am really interested in, and that is Firefly Wedding. Satoko must marry into wealth, but in order to survive the assassin who's after her, she asks him to marry her. Her proposal isn't sincere, but unfortunately for her, Shinpei loves as intensely as he kills. Now, this is a pretty recent series. I believe it started last year in 2023, and it has been garnering a lot of positive attention. But it's interesting because Viz Media does not often, or they have not for a while, done like really recent shoujo titles like this. Something that just started last year that only has 3 volumes is really unusual for them as far as shoujo goes. So I'm really happy to see this kind of change in direction that they're going with their shoujo publication, because it's nice to see something a lot more recent in Japan getting put out here. But I'm extremely interested in this. This has a fantastic sounding synopsis, and it does come recommended by a lot of my friends personally, so I'm excited about it. Next up, we have a new One Piece light novel, Heroines. Follow Nami, Robin, Vivi, and Perona as the heroines of One Piece go off on their own adventures in this collection of prose short stories. So these short stories were originally published in One Piece magazine in Japan, kind of sporadically over the past several years, and they have in Japan been collected across 2 light novel volumes. I don't know if I would consider this to be ongoing, so that's why in the graphic that I put on the screen, I haven't labeled it as complete or ongoing, because they could put new chapters out in any issue at any point. But there are 2 volumes of this light novel collection series thing out in Japan, so unless this is a compilation of both, there should at least be 2 volumes in the US. Next up, we're getting more 3-in-1s for Shonen Jump titles. Hunter x Hunter 3-in-1s. So this makes sense why they would do this now, because with the series coming back from its lengthy hiatus and Togashi working currently on new chapters and kind of changing up the publication of the series to be better for him, it makes sense that they want to keep Hunter x Hunter in print. When you have new volumes coming to the front list, you want to keep the back list available, but it's easier to keep putting that onto the front list. So putting out a new omnibus edition, a 3-in-1 edition, is going to be a lot easier for them to do than keeping 37 volumes active on their backlist, just from the publication standpoint. So yeah, this is not surprising. I know a lot of people are like, why don't they do a box set for this? And I'm not saying it'll never happen, but I think at this point it makes more sense for them to do 3-in-1s as a re-release rather than a box set, because they don't know when the series is going to wrap up. And with the length at where it is now, 37 volumes, they don't want to do a box set of like 25 or so volumes and then find that the series is going to wrap up with volume 40 and then put out a second box set that's so uneven with like just 15 volumes. So it makes a lot more sense for them to wait a little while, know like where it's going to be ending, and then eventually put out box sets when they can split them up a little bit more evenly. Anyway, moving on, it's been enough time talking about that. Next up, from the creator of Golden Kamuy, Satoru Noda, which is one of my absolute favorite series of all time, we get Dogs Red. After an outburst that left him banned from figure skating, Ro joins an underdog hockey team. Ro's never played ice hockey, but he sure knows his way around the rink. I love Satoru Noda. Golden Kamuy is one of my favorite series of all time. It has everything you could want in a manga in there. Comedy, action, drama, everything is there. And I will literally read anything that Noda does. I trust him with my life basically at this point, with how good of a writer he is. So I'm so excited that they picked this one up pretty quickly, because it's only got a couple volumes. But this one's publication history is also kind of funny, because it is a new series, but technically he's kind of revisiting a series that he did before Golden Kamuy that was canceled after like 5 or 6 volumes. And it's funny to me because he's like, screw you guys, you canceled my old hockey series, I'll just go make a new one. So yeah, Any new Noda is good for me. It'd be great though if they would go back and release the original series as well. That would be a lot of fun to have. Moving onward, we get Tokyo Alien Bros from Keigo Shinzo. VIZ just released the first volume of his series Hirayasumi, and I'm guessing that pre-orders were really good for that one, or there's just a lot of buzz around Shinzo's name in general because they immediately went and picked up another Shinzo release. Aliens walk among us, but they're just two bros hanging out in Tokyo, tasked with colonizing Earth. Adapting to this new life might be harder than imagined. I have a feeling that between these two releases from VIZ and then Holiday Junction over at Denpa, which they'll eventually get to putting out, we're going to see probably all of Shinzo's catalog put out in English, which is great because he's been in the industry for a little while, but it took us so long before we finally saw him brought over to the US. And honestly, the rest of his catalog is not huge. He has like 3 single volume releases and then 2 short 4-volume titles. So I kind of expect that in the not too distant future, whether it be VIZ, Denpa, or someone else, we're going to see the rest of Shinzo's catalog brought to English audiences. And of course, it's not a round of VIZ Media announcements without a Junji Ito announcement. This time we have the Liminal Zone Volume 2, or Season 2 as it's known in Japan. Eisner Award-winning horror creator Junji Ito invites us back into the Liminal Zone with Part 2 of his haunting short story collection, What Fate Awaits When Death Is Not the End. So this is, I believe, 4 more short stories that he put out there, not connected to the stories in the first Liminal Zone, but published under the same title in Japan. And with this, if you've been keeping up, I believe there are just 5 more Ito releases that we don't yet have in the US, and then like 9 short stories that are not collected anywhere. So we are getting kind of to the end of all of these regular releases from VIZ as far as Ito stuff goes. They're going to run out pretty soon, like within the next couple of years. Next up is volume 14 of My Love Story. In the standalone story, Takeo and Yamato head to college where a series of ominous events occur. Will this chapter in their life end with murder? So this is the 14th volume of the series, but the series ended back in, I believe, 2016, and these are like short stories that came back. This, like it said, self-contained 14th volume. The series came back for a little bit recently, and then this was published in Japan. So it is a little bit weird to see like them announcing a 14th volume as a license announcement, but because it's not obvious that they were going to be doing this, it's nice for them to give the confirmation of that. And also, it means they'll probably wind up reprinting the first 13 volumes, keeping those available, so that people can pick those up in anticipation of this one, which is nice because some of those early volumes have gotten a little bit harder to find. I highly recommend the series itself, My Love Story. If you haven't read it or at least seen the anime, I highly recommend it. It is a hilarious rom-com series that I think most people would find enjoyment in. I love the characters in this title. Next up is another big one and another unexpected one for Shoujo Beat, and that is Pink Candy Kiss from Ami Uozumi. Takara's never felt jealous over any of her boyfriends. Then her middle school crush Emma re-enters her life as a married woman. Can Takara find happiness with Emma, or is she 20 years too late? Now, this one's interesting for several reasons, because it's going against a lot of typical things that we don't see from VIZ. This, again, is a newer title going into the Shoujo Beat line. It's only 3 volumes right now in Japan, having started back in 2022. It is a josei. We don't get a lot of josei from VIZ in general, but we also don't get a lot of josei put into the Shoujo Beat line. It's also a GL. It is a girls' love title, and we don't get a lot of girls' love at all from VIZ Media. So it is interesting in that aspect as well. So we have all of these interesting aspects that made it seem like this would not be something that VIZ would be interested in. So this is a really cool license pickup from them, and I've seen a lot of my friends being very excited about this one, so I am definitely going to be giving this one a go when it does come out next year. So good on VIZ for this surprising announcement. Next up, we have something that I thought was pretty obviously going to happen. Maybe it wasn't obvious that it would be Spirited Away, but I was pretty sure we were going to get another announcement for one of these film comic all-in-one editions of a Studio Ghibli movie. Fantasy and adventure weight in this deluxe hardcover film comic based on Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away, winner of the 2002 Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. So all 5 volumes of the original film comic are being put into one fat hardcover. This is the 3rd of these Ghibli film comics that they've announced after Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service. So at this point, I'm sure that they're going to continue to announce these and just have one of these coming out every several months until they finish with all of the ones that have gotten, like I know Howl's had one, Castle in the Sky, I believe, has one, Arietti, there are more as well. Some that I think never got released in English before, so it'll be interesting to see those finally happen over here. If you're sitting here like, what's the point of these? Like, why should I care about something that's literally just like taking stills from the movie and slapping some speech bubbles and stuff on there? Usually I would agree with you, but for Ghibli is one of the few things where I think that this is really going to be worthwhile. One, because I did own these before and they were beautiful little books. Just the presentation of these stills from the films are beautiful, so I already know that. But number 2, Ghibli animation is so fantastic and detailed that you could pause it at any point and it's always going to be something that's just beautiful. And so of anything, this would be what you would want to see get this treatment. And I'm glad that they're bringing these back and keeping them in print. For myself and for many others, I'm glad that they're doing that. The one thing that I'm disappointed in is I did look up the dimensions for this, and if they are correctly listed on the Totoro volume, they are as small as these original ones were when they did the single volumes, which is slightly smaller than your average like Shonen Jump volume of manga. So they're gonna be stout and fat hardcovers, basically. I'm still going to be picking them up. I'm still excited for them. I just wish that they were oversized. Moving on, next we have the My Neighbor Totoro official cookbook. This charming cookbook invites you to recreate the delicious foods seen in the beloved Studio Ghibli film, My Neighbor Totoro. Not much else to say here. It's a cookbook with stuff from My Neighbor Totoro. Next, though, is something I'm extremely excited for. I should have assumed that this was gonna happen this time because the digital release got announced somewhat recently for the VIZ app. So usually when that happens, the physical announcement is not far behind, and that is Inio Asano's Mujina Into the Deep. From the Eisner Award-winning creator of Goodnight Punpun comes a new world where human rights are for sale, and without them, you're nothing, a Mujina. So I love Inio Asano. Goodnight Punpun is one of my favorite series of all time. Absolutely love Dead Dead Demons DDD Destruction, which is getting a film release right now, or two anime films coming out in Japan. And I think this first one came out somewhat recently to some acclaim. So I love Inio Asano. If you haven't read any of his works, I would definitely recommend checking out some stuff, but go with a little bit of hesitance because it does, a lot of his stuff, especially like Goodnight Punpun, gets pretty dark. But very excited they didn't waste any time on getting this license out there and getting this out to us here in the US in English. Moving onward, another big one for the Shoujo Beat label is A Star Brighter Than the Sun from Kazune Kawahara, who is, of course, the writer of My Love Stories. So kind of a 1-2 punch of Kawahara for fans of their work. Sai has always been taller and stronger, while her childhood friend Koki is the opposite, but then comes his high school glow-up. Sai will have to confront her growing feelings for Koki. This one has a little bit more volumes. It is still ongoing like the others that I've been talking about from Shoujo Beat, but it is a little bit longer at this point with 7 volumes. It started back in 2021. But still, it is a pretty... it is a lot newer of a series than a lot of the things that Shoujo Beat has had in the past. So we are going into a new era, I think, for VIZ and their shoujo releases, and I'm really excited to see that happening. Next up is something else that should have been expected, and of course that is Four Lives Remain, Tatsuya Endo before Spy Family. VIZ has been doing a few of these like blank creator before blank series books. They have like the Demon Slayer one, and they've done other stuff as well, which I've really been enjoying, because whenever I like a creator, I like to have all of their works, and it's nice to see all of these early like one-shots and short stories being collected in anthology volumes, then put out for us to enjoy. So I'm really excited every time one of these happens. So of course, with Spy Family and Tista and Blade of the Moon Princess, this, I believe, wraps up everything by Endo, so we now have the entire Endo bibliography. Journey back to the 2000s with this standalone collection of dark and gritty one-shots from Spy Family creator Tatsuya Endo. That's their description of it, but good stuff. I'm really excited about that. Then we got Beyblade X 321 Let It Rip. Beyblade returns when an amateur teams up with a champion, vowing to rise to the top. Beyblade X was story by Homura Kawamoto from Kakegurui, as well as his brother Hikaru Muno, and art by Posca Demizu of The Promised Neverland. I had no idea that Posca Demizu moved over to a Beyblade series after wrapping up Promised Neverland. Nor that the writer of Kakegurui was writing it. So I didn't know about this whatsoever. I've never been into Beyblade, so I'm obviously wasn't paying attention, but I'm interested in this manga for sure. This was a surprise announcement, but it is also a young reader series coming from Koro Comics. So again, like I was saying with the Minecraft one, it does kind of make sense for them to want to put something out like this to get more of that young demographic. But again, like art from Posca Demizu, definitely going to be picking that one up, even if I've never been into Beyblade. I'll get into Beyblade. I'll adopt another hobby. I don't care. Then the last physical announcement is something that I did not see coming in a million years, but I am extremely excited about. I know a lot of people were very excited to see, and that is Vagabond, the definitive edition. The first 3 volumes of Vagabond are collected in a large trim edition with gorgeous textured design. Follow Musashi's epic journey from the beginning. From manga legend Takehiko Inoue, Vagabond Definitive Edition releases spring 2025. So I'm just gonna say that with the release of the deluxe edition of Berserk several years ago, Dark Horse changed the game for manga publication in the US. They set in motion a series of dominoes that they probably didn't expect to, where now we're getting all of these great oversized deluxe edition hardcovers of manga that several years ago publishers wouldn't have thought to do. But with the first domino being struck with that deluxe edition of Berserk, they've set into motion all these other publishers putting out their own things as well. Of course, Kodansha has done this with stuff like Ghost in the Shell and A Silent Voice, and most recently they've done this with Vinland Saga, and now we have Vagabond coming from VIZ. And I'm going to say that if this is successful, if this sells well enough, I could see them turning Definitive Edition into a new line of books that they start putting out regularly. That we're going to start seeing more of these classic celebrated titles that VIZ has in their publication history coming back as definitive editions. This is extremely exciting, not just for fans of Vagabond itself, but I think this is exciting for anyone who is a fan of anything from VIZ, because if you're a fan of bigger releases like I am, then it's really going to be fun to see what they do with this line if it does succeed, because I would love to see so many of their titles get these deluxe hardcover treatments. I've been picking up every single one of the deluxe hardcovers that other publishers put out in these trim sizes, and I can't wait to see what VIZ does on their side. Anyway, that's it for the physical announcements, and let me know personally if you're looking forward to these definitive editions, what other VIZ series you would want to see released in this format. Now, we did also get 6 digital licenses, and I'll just run through those really quickly. First up is Doron Dororon. That one was Weekly Shonen Jump, ended after 5 volumes. Then another Weekly Shonen Jump, Ichigoki's Under Control, was only 2 volumes long. Currently ongoing from Jump Plus, we have Wild Strawberry. Another one that ended after just, I believe, 2 volumes from Weekly Shonen Jump was Do Retry. Then a 4-volume series from Weekly Shonen Jump, Ginka and Gluna. And then the last one is another Jump Plus title, the currently ongoing Shoujo Null. I do want to state here that just because something is getting the digital exclusive release, that doesn't mean that it will never be physical. We have seen this happen in the past with things like Vampire Knight Memories, and more recently Mission Yozakura Family. So I'm saying that to say, like, none of these are off the board as far as digital or as far as physical releases go. Some people seem to think like this means it's not going to happen. I just want to put that out there. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. What I do think is, because usually there's only like 3 digital releases, this time we had 6. I think that we're going to see more and more of these digital releases happen where titles that they're releasing on apps and stuff, like on the Shonen Jump app, on the VIZ Media app, they're going to announce the digital license for volumes and stuff for everything. And then they're going to do the physical later. So I think we're going to see a massive increase in these over the next, couple of years. But it's not going to mean that they're going to stop doing the physical releases. It's just they're going to want to have everything available digital as well. Anyway, that is everything for this time. A very, very exciting round of announcements, in my opinion. Some stuff that I am extremely excited finally got announced. The one thing that I was kind of halfway expecting, maybe a little more than halfway expecting, was I will say was Steel Ball Run, just because of the way that the timing lines up. I knew it would either be this time or next time, and because that's Stone Ocean, the last volume, is set to come out early next year, which would put the first volume of Steel Ball Run in May of next year. And because of that placement, it was clear that we would either see Steel Ball Run announced this time or in the fall of this year during the October announcements. So it wasn't this time, it's gonna be in October. I'll see y'all in 4 months for Steel Ball Run's announcement. But in the meantime, let me know what you are excited about. What series are you definitely picking up? What are you curious about? What were you not expecting to be announced? Let me know all your thoughts and stuff in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you're new to the channel, I really appreciate you. I hope that you'll hit that subscribe button and keep up with my videos. Usually 2 to 3 videos every month going forward. And if you are not new here, you know how much I appreciate each and every one of y'all sticking around and hanging out with me every time I put out one of these videos. So thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.